If you have been watching one of the last 2 days, then you will know who, our next speaker. It's Jan Rosam from EY, and he has the simple but pretty interesting title, Sustainability, Blockchain Use Cases. Welcome, Jan.
Thank you very much, Marcel. Yeah. Great pleasure to be here at the Crypto Asset Conference. It's the third time that we are sponsoring, so you forgot to mention we are sponsor. No, it's a pleasure to be here. Usually I talk about financial infrastructure and blockchain. So this year I talk about sustainability because, of course, when we advise large clients, and if you have a C-level conversation, then not just digital assets on the agenda, but also ESG. So you can ask yourself, specifically from a financial service perspective, so what are the use cases for blockchain when it comes to sustainability? So when we look at specifically at the E, you know, this is not a conference about sustainability. We could talk hours about all the regulation, etc. So then you know from the Paris Agreement that there is an overarching goal, of course, that we limit the temperature increase by 1.5 degrees. Of course, there are more commitments around this, mandatory and voluntary commitments. But there's a second part in this Paris Agreement, which basically, or which states explicitly that we need the financial flows to make it consistent to support this overarching goal. So that means the financial service industry overall has a key role in this overall transformation, which will transform us, the way how we act, but also all the corporations and the enterprises. So therefore, it's a really important topic for the financial service industry. Of course, in the end of the day, to finance this transformation. So, but when you look at the financial service industry, so there are a couple of challenges or basically areas they need to look at. We heard about this. First of all, it's products and services. So all of these clients thinking about, okay, how do I need to adapt my product portfolio to make it ESG compliant? How can I offer new innovative products which combine the ESG attributes into my product ranges, and this could be from bonds, derivatives, down to credit cards, payments, deposits. So we see, and we will see going forward, a huge range of green products arising from the banking side. But also they're thinking about offering new services. So today, I mean, most of the banks advise their corporate clients in rating matters, in financing matters, so they will also help them to advise on the ESG transformation. So the second point is regulation. I don't want to touch on this. It's a whole program to talk about this. So of course there's a lot of regulation around this, and we just heard, and I think this is a key point that from a governmental and regulatory perspective, of course, they will take measures to ensure that the financial flow basically is aiming to reach these goals. So meaning that, as we heard, it could be potentially that they will penalize financial institutions when they finance brown assets or other things. So therefore, regulation is tough and it's tight and it's getting more and more every day. So they need to comply with the regulation. So the third area is really around risk management. We heard about this, so environmental risk, social risk, etc. will be part of the risk measurements banks need to take. We're currently running the ECB stress test on climate. And every time a bank will get engaged in some kind of financial engagement, they will need to argue also internally, how does it affect the risk measures and the KPIs we need to fulfill as a financial service industry. And then, of course, the fourth area is disclosure. So we need to disclose this data. We need to disclose a lot of information, not just to the regulators, not just to the government, but also to the public, to the stakeholders, to make transparent, or the financial service needs to make transparent how they support this transformation. So, but if you take this as a whole, then the question is, and the biggest thing is that every area requires consistent, quality-assured, ESG-related data. So, and I think this is one of the biggest challenges the financial service industry and actually everyone is facing. So the ESG data collection, transformation, and disclosure is very complex. And I just showed this picture here. It's just a reference data architecture for a bank. So they really need to think about how do we incorporate all the data we need to consume from our clients, from outside, from all these different data sources. And it's not just that we have established data providers, there will be more to come. It's scientific data, we heard about IoT, news feeds, social media feeds, there was own research, research by third parties. So it is a huge amount of data they need to consume. So, and then of course the collection and the transformation disclosure requires a complex data setup and governance. So, because if you are in a global organization, of course you need to make sure that the clients you serve in multiple countries get the same ratings. So the governance on this data is very complex. And of course, the regulators require market participants to disclose the data. So, of course, this report, as you can imagine, from a bank perspective, need to be compliant, quality assured. So you don't want to report wrong data to regulators. So there's a lot of discussions around quality assurance of the data you report outside. And then the fourth area, of course, which is troublesome for most of the institution, is the misclassification. So it's called greenwashing, and I guess you all heard about this in the media. So there are a lot of financial service providers who really fear that since they do maybe misclassify certain products, certain services, that they get in these get a reputational risk to be called greenwashing their products. So if you take this a bit further, then you can see we have four, I think, properties here. So one is, so there's a decentralized data source, so multiple sources need to come together. We need to identify the owner and the sources of the data. We need to have transparency, which we potentially currently miss. Also, if you imagine that if a corporate has relationship with multiple banks, so a multi-bank setup, then it's strange if every bank would come to another conclusion on whether this counterparty or this engagement he is involved is supporting the ESG principles or not. So, and then it seems there is a trust issue. I mean, greenwashing is a topic, and we all kind of aware that or ask ourselves the question, if we invest in this green product, is it really green? So it seems to be a trust issue. So, and since this is a blockchain conference, so if you look at these parameters, then you can, of course, come to the conclusion here, maybe blockchain could play a role here to maybe solve some of these issues around data. And this is something we as EY, of course, have already thought about this, and so it's probably not so much known or only to maybe the insiders. So we have, of course, a tech stack which we provide to our clients. So we have a very comprehensive technology service offering around blockchain, and our flagship tool is called EY Ops Chain. It's a supply chain tool where we support large enterprises in supply chain matters. For example, we are behind the blockchain technology. If you think about the Xbox in payment, or if you do a payment at the inbox Xbox, then now okay. So then there's a blockchain technology behind which has been provided by EY. We just launched a big project with Peroni, for example, and we work with multiple providers in the supply chain network with our blockchain solution. So in this blockchain solution, we have extended to support ESG cases. So, and how it works is, I think it's clear. So on the one hand side, we basically consume the information from the green energy producers, and this is a carbon example, or the so the producer, the consumers of energy via an attestation service, so which of course could be done automatically. So we heard about hardware devices, IoT, but of course could be for other use cases, other forms of attestation service, which we link to a blockchain identity. So we can basically trace back the source where the information came from. And of course, these blockchain identities become a wallet in which we can collect these energy or carbon tokens which are generated, which we can then link to a price sourced from a market data or from a market data provider or a marketplace. And then the end user, which could be an enterprise, which could be a retail investor, then can basically use with his wallet, basically can acquire these tokens. And then of course he gets a proof where the source of this information is coming from. And that, of course, since our solution is a lot focusing on enterprises, as you might know, we are the creator of the baseline protocol in the Ethereum community. So the idea is really to integrate our EY Option solution in enterprise setup. So for example, SAP or other type of systems. So what we do here basically is we can link this to the identification network of these enterprises, so to make it seamless to be integrated, not to deal with too many identifications and identities. So if we take this a bit further then, I'm struggling with the technique. Is it just me? Oh no, okay. Good. So if we take this a bit further, then of course these corporations or these enterprises can consume this data, collect this data. We allow to enrich the data with their own data sets, and then they can make it available to others. So on the one hand side, they can use it for disclosure, and they can feed ESG analytics tool, which we see to appear in the market. And of course, that for us is the fundament for the financial service industry to pick up this information, hopefully in a streamlined and consistent manner. Because this is basically what we're missing sometimes today when you basically buy a green bond. Then of course this green bond fulfills the standards which have been set, but how to trace back where basically the asset has been come from. So in this solution here would allow, because it sits on the supply chain, it's integrated in the enterprise's architecture, would allow enterprises to disclose this data also to not just to the public, but maybe to their financial service counterparties. So what to do with the data? And I think we heard about this yesterday, and I think we will hear more here about tokenization. Of course, use cases the financial service industry is working on, of course, is the digital green bonds. Yesterday we heard a lot about the German securities law. Of course, there's an interest like using this new form of securities also for green bonds, and to link basically the ESG criteria into these tokenized forms of bonds. We just had a blockchain conference in the UK, and we had Luke. Now I forgot his name, Luke Fröhlich from Fidelity, and he sees this is the biggest use case for tokenization, is really that we allow our financial products to be linked to the ESG criteria. So Greenbond Tokenization is another use case. So basically the question is, look, how can you tokenize an existing green bond and then make it accessible to other participants, and to allow maybe a direct investment in these type of products. The third aspect is what we are working on with multiple clients is really on the traceability of these green assets, specifically within funds or pools. So as you know, a green bond sits on a pool of assets, so it's not just important to know that the green bond fulfills the standards, but also the investor might want to understand what's in this pool, and then you need to trace back to the original project you have financed, and that is not possible today in the current manner. So traceability built on our supply chain solution, of course, will be an area where I believe will be a lot of traction and where blockchain technology can use. And then, Of course, the tokenization in general, it's a wide field. We see everything from tokenized money, which is linked to ESG criteria. We see stable coins or appearing, which have certain ESG criteria. We will see going forward tokenized fund shares, which can incorporate ESG aspects on criteria, and even payments. So it's a wide area of green products which will appear, which requires data, which we hopefully can provide to the financial service industry by using our tools which sit on the supply chain, on the supply chain. Good, so I think I need to come to an end, and I'm at the end, of course, a bit of an advertisement at the end. Yeah, so what we do at EY is really we are kind of a one-stop shop for our clients, industry clients, but also financial service clients. We do everything from strategy to, of course, finance, risk and compliance, to legal advice and licensing. So, and as I said, we have a comprehensive tool stack. We are a supporter of the Ethereum community. Our tools are, as you might see in the press, I mean, we are one of the only consulting firms who really engage in public blockchain. We are also a contributor. Nightfall protocol, baseline protocol has been built by EY. Together with partners, all our software runs on Ethereum and Polygon and other EVM-based solutions, which we will definitely also continue to extend going forward. If you want to have a look, go to blockchain.ey.com. You can see a free version of our tools and can play around. So we are very open in the way how we produce our software for the industry. And of course, I'm the last one in this row. We had presentations on all 3 days, which also shows the depth of our expertise. So we had DAO and DeFi talk on Monday. We had talks on market infrastructure on Tuesday and digital assets. I was on the money panel this morning, and now on sustainability, where you can see that we really try to engage with the blockchain community and the crypto community, really to support all the use cases in the market. And so a bit of an advertisement for our podcast. And of course, we run regular events, which you can, of course, attend. So thank you very much.